Good evening, everyone. My name is William Iannuzzi. I'm president of the Board of Education. Colleagues, can I get a motion and second to reconvene the public session of the meeting?
So moved, Brooks.
Second, Castellano Minaya.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda is accepting minutes of our previous meeting. So colleagues, can I get a motion and second to accept minutes of the Board of Education regular meeting held on September 5th, 2024, and accept minutes of the Board of Education special meeting held on September 17th, 2024, as submitted by the clerk and secretary to the Board of Education?
So moved, Castellano Minaya.
Second, Lewis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up on the agenda is announcements by Board of Education members. Do any of my colleagues have any announcements they'd like to make tonight? Yeah. Oh.
I think Katie got it.
Ms. Williams? Ms. Williams?
Great. Good evening, everyone. I would like to wish a happy Rosh Hashanah to our friends who celebrate. And our schools will be closed on October the 3rd and the 4th. And also, I would like to announce that the Trinity PTA will be meeting on October the 9th. And also, we have some excitement. This is Italian Heritage Month and also the end of Hispanic Heritage Month. And also on October the 14th, our schools will be closed in observance of Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Castellano?
I would like to again congratulate and thank our teaching assistants. Friday was a national celebration of our teaching assistants. Thank you for everything you do. We could not do it without our teaching assistants' love and patience and support. I also want to acknowledge that tomorrow is a National Custodial Workers Recognition Day. So please make sure you give lots of appreciation and gratitude to our phenomenal custodians who are there every single day, even on snow days, making sure that we can be at school safely and our students and staff. So thank you. And then finally, we also celebrate National Principals Month this month. And thank you to all of the phenomenal principals in the New Rochelle schools who are leading our schools and helping make sure our strategic roadmap it comes to life for all of our students and excelling and elevating learning for all of our students. So thank you, thank you. And then finally, this month is also Bullying Prevention Month. And so I would be remiss not to acknowledge the importance of standing up against bullying, and also if there is a student that is bullying, making sure that they get the support that they need as well. Oftentimes, our students that exhibit bullying behaviors themselves might be the victims of bullying. So we have to think both about students who might be perceived as victims and aggressors and a restorative approach. So thank you, and wear orange as we celebrate putting an end to bullying this month. Thank you.
Ms. Brooks?
I attended my last Meet the Teacher Night at the high school last week. I have a high school senior. I just want to congratulate all the leadership and the staff at the high school for a really smooth, wonderful event with lots of people helping all of us parents not get lost, which would have happened otherwise. Anybody who's been in there, I would still not be out if it was not for those helpful volunteers. But it was really great to just see teachers so excited to be welcoming students back and teaching the things that they love. And it just really made me proud to be part of the district. So congratulations, and sad for me that it was my last one.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Any other announcements? I got two. One, we get on the board. We have 1 year to do some mandated training. So I do have some beautiful certificates for Ms. Clayton Fernandez and Mr. Single for completing their governance training. So congratulations. And then 2 Fridays ago, I actually had the pleasure to attend a conference in Albany with Miss Mary Claire Breslin and Dr. Reynolds, um, sponsored by NICET, about disconnected, a convening, exploring the impact of cell phones, social media, and technology on children, schools, and learning. It was in a great session. It was very I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about what some kids and families are going through, what some other schools are doing, uh, about the impact of mobile devices on children. The governor was there, and there was many other people there who spoke about it. And I think the most impactful were the speeches from children about what it was like to learn in a school without cell phones. So we're very interested to learn more about this and what the governor's plans are in the next couple months. So we'll be on the lookout for that. Do any of my other colleagues have any announcements they'd like to make? Seeing none, I would like to move on to the superintendent's report. So Dr. Reynolds, I'll throw it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Through the president and through the trustees, I wish everybody who is sitting here in our captivating audience, or those of you who are watching at home or at a later date, I welcome you. Through the board president, I would just like to bring some good news from our schools. On September 11th, New Rochelle High School earned high honors from the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. District Athletic Director Joe Donaldson accepted the School of Distinction Award and the Section 1 Sportsmanship Promotion Award on behalf of New Rochelle High School. The department is very pleased in receiving these awards. The Section 1 Sportsmanship Promotion Award banner is presented to schools that have demonstrated proactive approaches in keeping sportsmanship at the forefront with students, coaches, spectators, and communities. The School District of Distinction Award is given to recognize academic and athletic excellence. New Rochelle High School has earned the accolades because all of our varsity teams received Scholar Athlete Team Awards for the 23-24 school year. Congratulations to our athletes. Let's give them a round of applause. Albert Leonard Middle School students participated in Start with Hello Week during the week of September 16th. The week was designed to raise awareness of the growing epidemic of social isolation and empowered students to create a culture of inclusion and connectedness in their school, their youth organizations, and in their community at large. Students began the week with Meet and Greet Monday, where they wore name tags to learn each other's names and forge new relationships with classmates. Thoughtful Tuesday included a lunchtime opportunity to write a kind message for a fellow student who may need some uplifting. On Wear Green Wednesday, students wore green in recognition of those who might be experiencing social isolation and loneliness. During Trusted Adult Thursday, students were asked to identify an adult whom they trust and can go to for support when needed. Finally, students close out the week with Moving Forward, get this, Friday, wearing ALMS swag to promote inclusivity in their school community. During lunch, students took a positive message from the motivational wall and vowed to continue spreading kindness throughout the school year. This year, the City School District of New Rochelle students marked the launch of Hispanic Heritage Month with events shaped around the national theme, Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together. At Ward Elementary School throughout this month, students are using interactive resources such as read-alouds about Hispanic leaders and learning more about the 21 countries the month honors through videos, readings, and crafts. Second grade students learned about the flags of the Hispanic countries by coloring the flags and creating posters with tissue paper. On September 19th, the Ward Hispanic Heritage Committee coordinated with the Ward PTA to sponsor and invite the Bilingual Arts and Education Organization and Latino Children's Theater, Teatro Sea, to perform the show Colors of Frida for students. During the assemblies, kindergarten through 5th grade students learned about Mexican artist Frida Kahlo's life and her rich Mexican culture through song, dance, puppeteers, and even some audience participation. At the Webster Elementary School, the community had a great time recognizing the many contributions and influences of Hispanic Americans to our history and culture through music, food, dance, and crafts at their Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. The celebration will continue in the school district throughout Hispanic Heritage Month, which ends on October 15th. Way back in time, in 1981, the United Nations established the International Day of Peace in recognition that peace not only is the absence of conflict, but also requires a positive, dynamic, participatory process where dialogue is encouraged and conflicts are resolved in a spirit of mutual understanding and cooperation. And we need that in this day and age. Webster Elementary School students marked the International Day of Peace by gathering on their playground on September 19th to sing songs of unity and love. This was the second year in which Webster students participated in this annual day. Under the direction of music teacher Heidi J., all Webster students from kindergarten through grade 5 learned the songs, and dare I sing them? No. But the songs were I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing. How many of those remember that one? And Put a Little Love in Your Heart. They sang them with some choreography to go along with the music. And at Jefferson School, we have activists who are trying to save our planets. Our planet, forgive me. First graders from Jacqueline Contreras' and Patricia Tavares' classes are learning about the benefits of composting and are sharing that information with their families and community. The students were part of the City of New Rochelle's Food Scrap Recycling Program kickoff at D'Onofrio Park on September 23rd. With assistance from the school district's Green School Committee, Jefferson's first graders collected food scraps from their school lunches and were the first to use the park bin for scrapping. The Food Scrap Recycling Program seeks to divert food waste from landfills and to promote sustainability. The program is supported by the Westchester County Department of Environmental Facilities Residential Food Scrap Transportation and Disposal Program, all one title. The city has placed drop-off bins at D'Onofrio Park near Jefferson School and Pine Brook Tennis Facility parking lots. Residents may drop off food scraps between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m., and city residents can purchase a food scrap recycling starter kit from the Department of Public Works. Student and community members who wish to get involved in the City School District of New Rochelle's Green School initiatives should email greenschools at nredlearn.org. Green schools with an S at nredlearn.org. Members district-wide host a Green Schools Fair in May to showcase their work throughout the year to make our schools more environmentally sustainable. And as Trustee Williams announced, this coming Thursday and Friday, October 3rd and 4th, schools and offices will be closed for the observance of Rosh Hashanah. To all of our community members who celebrate this holiday, I wish you Shana Tova. And schools and offices will also be closed on Monday, October 14th for the observance of Christopher Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. And with that, Mr. President, I relinquish the microphone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reynolds. Next up on our agenda are discussion items, and we actually have some very special guests for our first presentation tonight. Do you want to do the introduction? So I'll let Dr. Reynolds do the introduction.
Good evening, everyone. It is my distinct honor and privilege to present to you our district superintendent. Just a little bit of some information. You may be wondering why I am referring to somebody else as a district superintendent. We are known, we being those who are heads of school districts, are known as school district or local superintendents. We belong to a consortium that is run by a Board of Cooperative Educational Services, also known as BOCES. Each of those entities have their own superintendent, which is basically our regional superintendent or a district superintendent. So I have had the honor of working with the person I'm about to introduce to you this evening for well over 25 years or so. Dr. Harold Coles serves as the superintendent of the Southern Westchester BOCES, and he is here tonight with his team to present to us some information about what the BOCES offer in our partnerships with the school district and with the BOCES. And it was my privilege to work with Dr. Coles way back when I was a teacher, and somebody mentioned when I shared it with the board that we must have been 10 at the time. So without further ado, I would like to bring to the microphone Dr. Harold Coles, Superintendent of Southern Westchester BOCES.
I really wasn't expecting that introduction, but thank you very much. I also want to be able to thank you for this opportunity to be able to come and before you and speak with you. I think that one of the privileges of working as a district superintendent and with the BOCES is that we can support our school districts in our region. And I think that we try to look at how we can be more effective, but also listen and hear what some of your needs and issues are and make sure that we're staying cutting edge and working towards that. I also want to have a brief introduction of two of our board members that did decide to come today. John Filiberti, he's our board president. And also Cheryl Brady. And Cheryl Brady has two hats. She's one of our board members on our BOCES board, but she's also a board member at White Plains. And she has a third hat where she's also the Area 10 representative for NYSSBA. So she represents us as a group collectively. So I'm going to defer to your time because I'll make sure that we have enough time to do what we need to do today. But my team that's here, we have a representative from Dr. Brendan Lyons. He's our Chief Operating Officer, Deputy District Superintendent. We do not have today our Assistant Superintendent for Educational Service, James Grotto, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. But we do have Dr. Ellen McDonald. She's our Executive Director for our Laurel Region Information Center. And we have Steve Tibbetts, who's our Assistant Superintendent for Business Administration here today. Let me make sure I get this correct. Perfect. So real quickly, what is BOCES? Our mission is our BOCES, and you have a copy of this PowerPoint in your packet as well. BOCES is here to support school districts and provide supports for their work that they're doing as individuals. Our vision is to be the leader in the field, to support you by providing cutting-edge information and support, but also to be a cooperative, respectful, and thoughtful thought partner with you as you go through the work that you're doing. We value respect, trust, and collaboration, and we try to partner and participate in an environment where we create nurturing, supportive growth through shared values and shared vision of what we're trying to accomplish. Our goal is to be the go-to group to come to when there's an issue, a question, or concern, or thought that you might have as to why not we should be doing in the region. So we have a protocol that we use as problem solving that's used to help with creating a roadmap where we believe that once you have a shared vision and understanding, clarity, what you're trying to do, everyone can move forward collaboratively. So BOCES was established in 1948. We have come upon our 75th anniversary. There's 37 different BOCES within New York State currently at this time, and we're one of those 7. Within our 37 BOCES within our region, we're part of a JMT, which is a joint management team, and that joint management team is made up of Putnam, Northern Westchester BOCES, Rockland BOCES, and Southern Westchester BOCES. And within that JMT, we have 12 regional information centers around the state. And with our regional information center, as mentioned, Dr. McDonald's here. She's our representative at the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center, and she's part of the BOCES to support through educational technology, and she'll have an opportunity to share what those educational technology ideas are, but also what you're actually taking part of in the work that you're doing. BOCES is a collaborative, I said, for our school district. We do service some of the big 5, but they cannot join the BOCES. And we provide supports, and we provide support cost-effective services for BOCES, but also through municipalities, but also school districts as well. Part of my responsibility, I'm the CEO of for the BOCES region, for the BOCES here at Southern Westchester BOCES. As district superintendent, I also serve as a consultant and liaison with the Department of Education. Part of my responsibility is to work directly with the Commissioner of Education. That's where I was yesterday and today. We had a meeting actually in New York City, which is the first time we actually done that in several years. So we were in New York City and we met with the commissioner and the state education team, but had a couple field trips. We actually wound up going to a couple of schools that we want to at least to be able to bring back and trying to look at replicating some of the work that's being done, especially in light of what we're talking about with the Blue Ribbon Commission and the regionalization question that we're looking at providing supports. As a district superintendent, my job is to support school districts, school boards. One of my responsibilities is help school districts as they do superintendent searches, but also help with administrative and business related services and supports. I'm also working with the school New York State Education Department standards and helping support that information within the region. I'm also part of the Commissioner's Regulation Initiatives with anything that's being done as we heard at the Blue Ribbon Commission. That's one of the initiatives that the Board of Regents is actually putting out. We're looking at regionalization, looking at supporting with the changes in APPR, and also with the learning standards as they come through. We also work with management and planning, school boundaries, and regionalization and merger information. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to be able to introduce Dr. Brendan Lyon next, and he will come and present the information related to our services that we provide as far as for educational services.
Thank you, Dr. Coles. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds, the Board of Education. Thank you for having us here this evening. So let's see, let's move forward. So actually, there we go, career services. So I wanted to bring to your attention, career services is one of the major segments of the services that we provide at Southern Westchester BOCES. And inside your packet, you have a one-pager. It says in service to your district. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it. It says in service to your district, and you'll note that New Rochelle actually sends 214 students to our Career and Tech Center, which is amazing, and by far the largest user of our Career and Tech Education Center. I think it's a tribute to the district that you commit your resources and that you're dedicated to providing students with that kind of unique opportunity that we're hearing more and more about. And also just wanted to take the opportunity to dispel a bit of a myth, and that is kids that go to BOCES Career and Tech don't go to college. It's absolutely false. We have many of our students who do both and who go on to all different types of careers, depending on their preference and what lights their fire. But that's something that we try to get that word out as much as possible, that we have all different types of students that come to the Career and Tech Center, and it does not preclude you from going on different paths after you attend the center. Not to mention you pick up some unbelievable life skills and potentially job skills as you enter into the workforce or college. So again, we prepare, become college and career ready. Students learn very specific industry skills depending on their program. All of our teachers are NYSED certified and have extensive experience in their fields. We also provide credits. So as they come to the Tech Center, embedded within their technical program, they're also working on their English, their math, their science skills, and so they're earning dual credits for their time at BOCES. And also we have special education students who attend in an integrated setting. So they attend a special education program, but they also push into the technical classroom as well. Students participate in work-based learning opportunities, both on campus and off campus. All of our curriculum and programs are approved by New York State Education Department. We have articulation agreements with colleges and universities. Our students take national industry exams. They come out of our programs highly qualified and highly sought after. And lastly, students are able to participate in local, state, and national industry programs and competitions. We'll actually be hosting the Skills USA competition this year at Southern Westchester BOCES, which has been many years since we've done that, so we're very proud to be hosting. Moving to our special services program, also on your one-pager, you have 17 of your students are currently enrolled in our special services programs, and we have an array of offerings, and these are for students who it's difficult for the district to provide a very specified or unique program for children with, in some cases, very profound disabilities. So you can see on our bulleted list here, anything from therapeutic support, multiply disabled, communication and academic development, autism spectrum disorders, and our intensive day treatment program. Just to clarify, the intensive day treatment program is a program that's designed to have the student attend and then gradually work their way back into their home school district. So it's a therapeutic sort of stabilization program, but the goal is always to get the student back to their home district. And embedded in these programs, basically it's essentially customized to the student's needs. They're individualized, very small group academic and life skills instruction. We also offer an array of support services. Many of these students have, again, profound needs in a variety of areas. Transition planning and support, so as students graduate and as they move on in life, that transition planning piece. Mainstreaming and work-based opportunities as appropriate. So we have students that push out into the community and work at local businesses. I can think of one specifically in White Plains where we've had some real success in students pushing out and working in local businesses. And lastly, very important to us is maintaining those partnerships with families and our school districts. Next is our Adult and Community Services program. Oftentimes, BOCES is not thought of serving adults, but we actually do. And as a matter of fact, in New Rochelle, it's a significant number of adults. Over 1,300 New Rochelle adult learners are enrolled in our adult learning and literacy program. And over 60 adult learners are in our continuing education program. So, which is phenomenal. And you may be aware that we have one of our centers is at St. Gabe's Church. And so many of our students attend at that location. And the adult learning and literacy, just to flesh that out a little bit, we're talking about English as a second language, high school equivalency, citizenship preparation. There's no prouder moment than seeing folks prepare for their citizenship exam. We do an end of the year ceremony, and the pride and the honor that folks have as they move through our programs and become citizens is if you have not witnessed, it's something to cherish. Workforce development, continuing education, healthcare. So we have numerous trades that we assist adult learners in, HVAC, construction, etc. Some of those are held off-site, others are at our Career and Tech campus in the evening. We do have a HVAC program during the day, but most of those programs are held in the evening or off-site. And we also have an incarcerated youth program where we provide educational services to the Westchester County Department of Corrections. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Ellen McDonald. I'll be back a few slides from now to finish up my sections. But Dr. McDonald is our Executive Director of the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center.
Thank you. I believe I'll be your shortest presenter this evening, so we'll get the mic down, take this off so you'll hear me a little better. Thank you. He said I'm taller than I think. It's all about presence, right? So thank you, Dr. Lyons. I am Dr. McDonald, and I do serve the JMT region that was described to you. So 3 different counties have one regional information center, and so we are, however, housed at Southern Westchester BOCES. So that is where my home office is, but serve the 3 counties. So over the next few slides, what you're going to see is the wealth of services we provide from the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center, and everything that is highlighted is something we do with you in New Rochelle at the current time. And you can see from the first slide, we do an awful lot together in terms of security and data security and technical security. I won't read every one of those bullets, but Anastasia and I can talk about it at any time, and I can bring you more details on that. The one that's not highlighted is just happens to be a vendor product that we support and train on that does fake phishing email. You probably just use a different tool to train your people. We just happen to have that one as an offering. But all of that is to talk about how we keep your data safe and how we keep your network safe, so that it still works every day. That's the idea. So we offer direct support to school districts in multiple ways to support that network. So you are part of a model that's called collaborative support. The districts that we have 42 districts we do support and directly in network support, which means that anywhere from having our technicians, which you do have some of our technicians, right, that check comes from us, but they work in your in your district. And there's a couple models for that. You happen to be in the collaborative support model. It allows you to also procure devices through us, and that is something that you do at a significant level because there are state aid implications for that, right? When you work through BOCES in a good way. And so that is there. You do participate in our shared internet service. So with size comes cost savings, right? So we provide internet to dozens and dozens of school districts, and with that size, it brings your costs down so that your wide area network, your private WAN also goes through us, and your managed fiber, which is the cabling, that brings the network to you. You also have your phones through us. We use a voice over IP hybrid system where some of it's here, some of it's at our location to do that. Your data center, we serve as your cloud is one way that I think, the cloud isn't really in the cloud, right? It's just someone else's big old servers in a big old room somewhere else, right? So we have a somewhere else for you. And it's actually two somewhere else's. So we have a full backup system, two redundant systems. It also, through that is all your fiber. If one of our hosting sites, if someone cuts a cable, right, from one internet provider, we actually have a second one that it immediately fails over to keep you connected. And you also participate in our hardware repair service and physical security like door locks, cameras, things like that. In financial and student services, your current student information system is eSchool Plus. You'll note that we do support 5 of them. So if ever that's a conversation that you say, hey, maybe you want to look at something else, it can be one of those. It can also be a conversation. One of the things that we love to do is ask us, hey, you guys think about this? Or you guys what do you want to explore this with me? And we are happy to do that. We exist for the districts. If there are 2 districts who want to explore something new, we're going to take a look and see if we can figure that out for you. You do use School Messenger as your notices out, informing of snow or whatever messages you might put out. You use a bunch of Frontline. Frontline is a company that bought a lot of companies. So IEPs, what used to be called IEP Direct, it's how we manage all of our paperwork for our 504 plans and our IEPs. You also use the Medicaid portion of that, and ASAP is your substitute management system in Frontline. And you integrate through ClassLink. In terms of your financial side of the house, you do use Envision with Finance Manager. I believe that, well, it used to be called that. I don't know why we have that on the slide with both names. Anyway, some people know the old name, so I guess we left the old name on there. Timepiece is your badge in out concept, and Frontline Forecast 5 is actually a pretty powerful tool that helps you look at data, comparing things in your district to other regions, even mapping. Forecast 5 has a lot in there. To look at some data and connect it to your financials. So you use Certify, which is a program to help make sure that when your CIO puts state reporting in, that it actually doesn't have glitches and errors in it before it gets sent up. You can, if you so wish, explore our support and mentoring programs for CIOs. You don't currently, I believe, participate in that, if I looked it up correctly before coming. And everyone in the state has to do their basic state reporting through a RIC. So thank you for continuing to do your compliance of state reporting through your, and we do your test scanning and scoring. You've chosen to use us for that. Instructional technology is a way cool, fun thing, right? It's just, it's where your teachers are figuring out, how are we going to do this, right? How are we going to integrate technology into the lives of our students, and how do we do that? So you are part of all of that. You have instructional coaches that work with your staff through us. You're part of our Technology Leadership Institute. We support all of your technology plans. The memo finally came out on Friday that the 3-year instructional technology plans are yet again a 4-year instructional technology plan, so they do not need to be written this year. They will be good through June of 2026, but we directly support that. Part of the model for those plans that need to be submitted to the state every 3 years is they must go through the RIC first, so that we can see what you're working on, how can we help, and make sure that it's in compliance for what they want. So we directly support that. In addition to an awful lot of software. Right? So we currently have 115. I would have to update it every day. It's probably not 115 today, it's probably 118, 121. But with all of the software that districts purchase through us, there is support around that software. I think that was my last slide. I'm giving it back to you, I believe, Dr. Lyons, and we'll go tall or taller. See if I guessed right.
I'm back. So in case you're wondering what else we do, we'll continue. So we also house the Center for Interscholastic Athletics in Section 1. Again, on your one pager, you have a very large athletics program, which we heard great news about, athletic scholars as well. You have 32 varsity teams, 18 JV and 21 modified. Make sure the rules are followed, et cetera. And that's what our Center for Interscholastic Athletics in Section 1 does. So again, we administer the scheduling of contests, we coordinate signing athletic officials, including contract negotiations. So we work all that out so that districts and kids can get on the field and have competition. Some optional services, sports registration and medical clearance, family ID is an example, video analysis, concussion management are all services that we offer through our center. And again, the Office of Section 1. So there are 36 sectional championship events that are coordinated each year. We make sure that all of our laws and regulations and rules are adhered to, sort of serve as the adjudicating body if there's a conflict, whether it be between two schools or at a particular contest. And essentially anything or would like to see in relation to athletics, we're there to provide that. School communications, we also offer a school communications service, especially nowadays. The expectation for rapid and accurate communication is essential from school districts. One of the products of our school communications center is actually in your folder, your board links you have, our newsletter. So again, not only in Southern Westchester, this particular group services multiple, this particular group services multiple counties all the way up into Sullivan County. So they have a really far reach, but they're housed here at Southern Westchester. Our school safety and facilities, this really is everything from the nuts and bolts of, basic building safety. So if you think of, asbestos inspections or mold inspections or lead in the water inspections, things like that, to things, unfortunately, that are in the news far too often, and that is emergency response. How do we deal? What are our protocols in the district? How do we develop our safety plans? What specific training do we need on mental health, wellness, social emotional learning, violence prevention, et cetera? So it kind of runs the gamut for school safety and facilities. Also has the school library system, again, a state-funded, grant-funded, really the nuts and bolts of Haitian COSER automation. So we know now that libraries are highly automated. The old card catalog is long gone. How do all those books get inventoried, organized? How do kids check in and out? How do teachers check them in and out? That's all automated, and BOCES provides that background support, those services to for libraries, as well as professional development for your library media specialists. So we're going to close out with Mr. Tibbetts, who's going to talk to you about the dollars and cents. So you have two handouts that relate to that. He's going to explain to you a little bit about how BOCES aid works and what those numbers mean to you. So thank you again for having us, and Mr. Tibbetts is all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So just to talk to some of the other services that are as a component of a BOCES, which New Rochelle is, it also opens up services throughout New York State. So it's the services that we provide at Southern Westchester, as well as anyone throughout the state. You might have a policy service out of Erie One, things like that. Some state aid planning services from Questar BOCES up near Albany, and so forth. So those are it gives you access to other services throughout New York State. In addition, because of the close proximity to some of the other BOCES in our region, you might send students out to some special programming, special education programming, either at Rockland BOCES or Putnam Northern. So being a component of a BOCES allows you or gives you the ability to share in those services offered by other BOCES. So as Dr. Lyons spoke about, one of the pieces is that a benefit of being a component of BOCES is BOCES aid. So in your packets, there's kind of two different things with a lot of numbers on them. One of them is a portrait sheet, which shows essentially an estimate of what services or what aid is generated on services. So a lot of times districts will call me and say, if we were to subscribe to X service, how much aid would we generate? And so I always go to say, to keep it simple, how much, if you spend $1, how many cents back in aid could you expect to receive as a district? Because it does shift a little bit each year, but not dramatically. So that's the portrait sheet in your packet with a whole bunch of numbers. So the right-hand side is the estimated aid as a percentage for purchases of services from Southern Westchester BOCES as well as other BOCES throughout the state. And then the other sheet, which is the landscape sheet, shows the history of purchases for the district over the last 5 years. So you can see that all of the different services, as you've heard about tonight, you're a large district. You're one of our largest, if not the largest customer we have. So we appreciate that, especially from our Career Services Center, where you send us so many students, which is wonderful. So you can see that overall, you're about, from our total selling of services, the district purchases about 8% of our services, which is large. And also on the bottom, it shows the BOCES aid generated for the previous 4 years, because we're still relatively close to June 30th. We haven't done all the aid filings for the 2023-24 year for the district yet, but that number will be coming out shortly. I'd be happy to answer any questions either on anything that we've spoken about tonight, if there are questions.
Great, thank you guys so much. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Ms. Clayton?
That was very helpful. I just had a question. I noticed in the packet there was talk of trade with medical. Do they do the EMT training, or is that something that's not a request here, or
So is there EMT training for your high school
For-
students?
for post
Oh,
high
for
school
adult
students?
ed?
Yeah,
No, we do not currently have that service
Okay.
for adult.
I know some of
programming.
them have it, but I didn't know if we offered it. So,
No, not for adults. Right, so some of your students are participating for the high school students participating
oh, great.
in the EMT program that we offer,
Okay.
but not the adult program.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm sorry, if we could go to the mic If we can just go up to the mic to answer so that our families at home or anybody who's watching a recording will be able to hear the responses as well. So the question was, do we offer EMT services and training for adults? BOCES currently does not as part of an extended learning program for adults, but it is a part of our offering for our career and technical education programming for our students. So we do have some students who are receiving that training.
Okay. And I guess the final question for me was the mental health and wellness, social, emotional learning. Is that also arming them with tools with it, or is it topic sort of carrying around the issue? Do you know what I mean?
So that particular slide was referring to our professional learning service for adults, right? So for educators all throughout the region, they can come to us for specific training in social emotional learning, mental health first aid, things like that. And then it can range. It can be individuals who might just come for a day of professional development. It could be us pushing out into school districts and providing, let's say, training on a conference day, or it can be ongoing. Many times in the safety and mental health and social emotional, there are certain certifications that might be required. So if a district has like a crisis response team, they need to have very specific training on how to handle students in crisis. So they will come to BOCES for, could be a day, could be multiple days to be trained in that. And we also, we essentially are the hub of the countywide crisis team, right? So if a district has a tragedy, whatever that may be, folks from around the county will gather with Southern Westchester with our coordination, and will go to that district if needed and help provide supplementary services, so social work, counseling, things like that.
Okay. And the final, I'm sorry, I did have one.
Sure.
So the students that kind of, well, the students that do the deep dive into BOCES, the big commitment, um, and I may have missed this and I can find out sometime, but I was just curious how their integration to the social development of their current classmates outside BOCES, or is there opportunity for them to sort of stay, integrated with their respected classrooms, as well as some social and a bridge for co-curricular and team building
Yeah.
outside the classroom?
Yeah, so two pieces. They're with us for half a day. So they're in their home district for the other half of the day. So of course that provides half a day of an opportunity. The other piece is when they head back to district, we get them back in time. So if they want to participate in athletics or any other extracurricular activities back at their home school, they can do that. Because we need to get them back so that they can be transported home. They go back and forth to us, but you transport them home and to school. And so, so yes, the time does allow for them to participate sort of in both worlds, in the CTE world and in their home district world. And then in addition, we try to provide some of those opportunities right on campus. So we do have for example, we have a student government, we have a student council. So just so that they have opportunities similar to what they might
Right, to
experience
develop their
in their home
leadership.
district. We have a full school counseling staff, so it's a sort of an entity of its own. So whatever they might need is there for them, but they can also avail themselves back in their home district as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I add one more thing as far as that piece also allows for them to be able to be part of honor society, because there is an honor society at our BOCES as well. And also with the Skills USA, there's also opportunities to be part of the leadership with that component as well. And I think that one thing I'm going to add to that is that we'd love to have you come and visit. And so you have an open invitation to set up an appointment to bring us board members coming as a group to meet with your student. I think the students would love to see you come and see them in action, and you can see the work that's being done and see how proud we are of the work that they're accomplishing while they're there. And we also want to extend an invitation to you to come to our annual meeting. So we'll make sure when you see the invitation, please come. Our BOCES students provide a nice dinner for everyone that's there. They actually do that for that part. So then they hear our presentation, but it's a good opportunity for you to see the students again while they're in action. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clean. Ms. Lewis and then Ms. Ross. Oh, Ms. Ross and Ms. Lewis.
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation, because I didn't really realize sort of all of the facets of BOCES and sort of how it just generally worked. I had just sort of seen BOCES but didn't really understand. So that was super helpful. I have 3 questions. I'll start with the first one is just in regards to our overall spend that we have with BOCES. And I don't know if this is actually a question for our superintendent, is career services. We are clearly the largest customer. And why is that?
Thank you very much for that question, Trustee Ross. Mainly because of our capita, right? So we have a lot of students who are willing to avail themselves of those programs. Being that we are the largest school district in this area that is serviced by a BOCES, keeping in mind that the next largest school district is Yonkers, and they are one of the big 5, so they do not get BOCES offerings, but they do some partnerships with BOCES. That's the reason why we have so many students going there. And I will tell you that there is usually a clamor to get into these BOCES programs, because we do know that there's a shift in the tide in terms of what happens to students post-graduation. We do find that students coming out with qualifications and a marketable experience is very different in this day and age compared to those who are coming out and going into a 4-year college institution and incurring debt. So we have some students who are choosing to go down the path of CTE in response to that.
And how many school districts make up this particular group?
There's 32 school districts in the region.
Right, for the Career Tech program, we have approximately 30 districts that send us students.
So this, when we're saying we're 8%, that's amongst 32 schools?
Well, the 8% is the overall BOCES, so there's a lot of different services. For example, the Regional Information Center covers multiple counties as well as interscholastic athletics. So that is for all of the service offerings from Southern Westchester BOCES. New Rochelle purchases approximately 8%. of all the services,
Okay.
but it's significantly higher for career tech. So the career tech students primarily just come from the Southern Westchester region.
Which is the 32.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. And then another question is the, I noticed the student information services, right? They had a bunch of, I guess, vendors that you've all worked with. Are those the only ones that we can choose from, or those are the priority ones? Like if we were looking for a different system for our students, are those the ones we would go to, or would we also cast a wider net?
So we have the opportunity to cast a wider net, but it is always beneficial to go through our BOCES for two reasons. It's aidable, so that's number one. Number two, the BOCES are the experts. The RICs are the experts in Ed Law 2D, thank you, which is our data protection. So any of those platforms that we would utilize in the district through BOCES have gone through triple filtration of vetting, so we would not have to take on that responsibility ourselves.
Got it. And that leads nicely into my last question, which is around cybersecurity. And so that being sort of healthcare companies are getting hacked. Every day I get, my information has been on the dark web, whatever that might be. How, I guess, are you all helping us protect our student information? And then do you also, I guess, on a regular basis, whether it's auditing ourselves in terms of making sure we have the right security protocols, but also auditing your own selves so that you're always sort of at the most, I guess, secure form of security?
Yes, so I think you had three different things in there. I'll
Yes.
see if I can capture them all. But yes, we are your first line of defense, right? That we have done the vetting and used best in class tools like CrowdStrike, and we can get into some of those if you want. We can provide you with a little more detail. We don't typically in a public setting lay out exactly how we protect data, but we are
Okay.
happy to have a meeting through Anna, and however she would like to have more details on that in a confidential manner. But we do also interrogate ourselves, right? So we run penetration tests on our own network, right? We use outside vendors, so it's not ourselves testing ourselves, right? To make sure what are there any ways in, right? We do that for what we host. You can use that service. We can do it for what you host, and we also, depending on what supports you're in, if you're in data privacy and security service, we also help you with your own NIST has a cybersecurity framework that Ed Law 2D requires you to always be working toward for cybersecurity. And so we help with audits of that. We just did our own for ourselves, and we know what the next things are to constantly be improving, because you're never done. Right, you can look at any framework that tells you this is how to be cyber secure. It's already out of date by the time it's published. So we are in a constant cycle of review and seeing, yes, what do we have? What can we do for you to make sure that all your data is secure and your network is secure?
And then I guess just one quick follow-up to that. If there are any data breaches, I assume that there's some protocol for us to inform us and
yes,
vice
there's a
versa.
very strict and detailed outlined process that we go through if we're the first to know. And you have responsibilities as well as a school district if you're the first to know, and we help any district who gets one of those emails right from a vendor that says, hey, on August of 1992, we realized we had a breach 20 years later. Of course, that's over 30 years. Picked a bad date, but yes. So yeah, there's a very detailed protocol that we go through. There's a lot to it, right? There's informing every parent, and the Ed Law 2D does require how we communicate and in what timeline we have to report it to all different agencies, both national and state. And yes, so there's a very specific protocol we follow.
And if I may add to that, it's informing any parent who has been or potentially has been. So it may not be widespread to the entire district if we know for a fact those parents weren't affected or
Got it.
potentially affected.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Ms. Lewis?
Hi, so first and foremost, thanks for the presentation. I agree, it was very helpful to have a fuller understanding of what BOCES is. And also, I went to a training with the Westchester Putnam School Board Association, and we had a New Rochelle BOCES student there. So it was really nice to see everyone in action. My first question is whether or not can you give us more information on what they do after graduation. You mentioned that some do opt to go to college and that their credentials are highly sought after. Does that mean that you have union partnerships? Like who's coming to the door to grab up our students?
Yeah, and union partnerships is one example. So in the spring, we typically, just as an example, we typically do a job fair. And so just thinking about last year, all the various agencies, so anything from civil service, Westchester County Civil Service, the military organizations were there. You mentioned the unions, so electrical unions, plumbing unions, HVAC, et cetera, were all represented there, as well as our community colleges, because many of our students transition to community college with credits that they've already earned as part of their BOCES program. So it's a variety, but yes, we have very sound partnerships with unions, our local unions, but also many of our local businesses. So car dealerships who allow our students to go out and get job experiences and oftentimes wind up hiring them. Just as an example, many of our local, as you know, we have many golf courses and catering halls and things just in this general area. Many of our students will get job opportunities over the summer. They'll learn the basics. They'll go to work at these places and then eventually get permanent jobs. So quite an array of possibilities. We were lucky to be in a region that has so many resources and opportunities for our students. And then some will follow, the four-year college path. They'll go off to college, for a four-year degree. So it's a variety. One of the things I recall one of our graduates saying was that regardless of whether they ever used the skill they learned at BOCES, like in a job, they had that skill for life, right? And so whatever they decided to do after college or whatever they chose to do, they took that skill with them and it was invaluable. So whether it was making a few bucks on the weekend or summer work or just doing stuff around the house or whatever it is they had learned, it was a valuable life skill. So all different paths that our students take.
Thank you. And the last question, and this is, I guess, looking into the future, you mentioned a lot of different opportunities that they can take part in. Are we cutting edge with AI opportunities moving forward? Like, is it always morphing in terms of what they have in terms of those offerings, or does it stay pretty stagnant?
So I wouldn't say it's, every year we develop a new program, but we're always thinking about what are the programs we should be developing. So as an example, one of the programs that we're in the development stages of is cybersecurity and network management. We're looking to, potentially partner with one of our other districts to do a program exactly as you're describing. But yeah, we're looking to, we have an adult ed HVAC program. We're looking to expand that to our day students. Also, we're looking to reinvigorate our welding program. We had one many years ago. Kind of dropped off, but there's a tremendous interest right now in welding. So we're looking to bring that back. So we're always sort of looking, a lot of it is driven by the market, right? The job market. What are the jobs folks are looking for to fill? And because we can't just create a program because we think it's needed.
Yeah.
We have to back it up with data, right? And state ed will ask, well, why are you creating this program? Well, there's this number of jobs in the region that we need to fill, and that's why we're creating this program.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Ms. Williams? Ms. Brooks?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Superintendent Reynolds, for inviting District Superintendent Harold Coles and his team and the BOCES board to give us this presentation. So I have been an educator for 30 years, over 30 years, and I have worked with BOCES. My students have, and so have I. And that's why I'm highly trained and I'm a master teacher. So thank you very much to BOCES. And also as a student at New Rochelle High School, we always historically offered many BOCES programs. And it provided our students with an opportunity to have a job as soon as they graduated from high school. So that is something that we've done traditionally. Now, I heard that was mentioned that New Rochelle still utilizes the services of BOCES. 8% of the programs purchased are from New Rochelle. And Dr. Lyons mentioned that We are the #1 client of BOCES. And can you just repeat the number of students who participate in BOCES, and also tell us some of the programs that they participate in?
Sure. So you currently, as of, this was probably about a week ago, your current enrollment at BOCES is 214 students, and they are virtually in every program. I don't want to say
Oh.
for absolute fact they're in every single program, but when you have 214, they're most likely in every program.
Okay.
And it ranges from automotive to cosmetology. We have sound and video production, animal science, et cetera, et cetera. So my guess is they're enrolled in virtually every program, if not all. Special services, you have 17 students enrolled currently. I do not have the breakdown of which specific special education programs they're in, but there are 17 enrolled. Adult education, you have exactly, as of again, a week ago, 1,387 adult learning and literacy students and 61 continuing ed students. So it's, in case you need it, it's right on here.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Brooks?
Thank you. I really appreciated the presentation. It was very thorough. I have a follow-up to Ms. Lewis's question about thinking about how we evolve the offerings and how you partner with districts on that. And I would just love kind of how you philosophically approach thinking about what should be included and not included. And then I think I have a question related for our team, which is, do we feel that the number that are participating, that there's more demand and there's a capacity issue, or, kind of where is this sort of a natural equilibrium that we're at in terms of numbers? And then I have another unrelated question, but I'll start with that one.
Yeah, so it's twofold. One I already mentioned, and that is, what is the current job climate? When we look at our region, what is needed? Another program we're looking at is hospitality and event management. Again, in this region, that is a big industry. Obviously, we're right outside of New York City, but even just within Westchester County, tremendous number of opportunities for our kids. So that's the first thing, is we look at the numbers, we look at the job market, Department of Labor, et cetera. The second piece is, before we sort of move forward in the creation of any program, is we typically survey the stakeholders. So we will send out, we actually just did this past summer, a survey to superintendents, school counselors, high school principals, to say, are these programs of interest to your students? Do you think this is feasible for you to send your students to these programs? And we kind of get some feedback. How interested are you in this? How interested are you in that? And we just sort of gauge the waters a little bit to see what really excites people. And then we try to prioritize with that. So feedback from component districts, and then looking at the data and the market, so to speak, for jobs.
I was going to add one more thing to that too, and I think that one of the things that we're also part of is we're part of the regional network that's for New York State, to be able to work on what jobs are in around the state. And it's part of the governor's initiative to make sure jobs in different regions will actually be addressed. Our programs are supported by a craft group of business officials, businesses, and where they support what we're doing. So a lot of that information comes from what their needs are, and they bring that to our CT program or director, and how the programs are, what their needs are. And if it fits within that regional economic development component, that is the area we start planning for going forward.
Thank you.
And Trustee, Madam Vice President, to answer the last part of your question, I don't have that data offhand. I don't know if, in fact, we are turning students away. I don't think that we are, to a large degree, if we are. But I do think that most of the students who express an interest have their needs met. But I can confirm with the high school principal.
Great, thank you. And my next question, and this is early in the presentation, you mentioned that one of your consultancy services is around school boundaries and reorganization. And I wondered if you could give a few examples of districts that you've worked in this, and what that kind of an engagement typically looks like.
So, trying to remember how many we've done, because they don't come up that often. But usually when there's a situation where there's a person that buys a property and they're concerned about where their property is as far as what school district are in. There's a request that comes to the district superintendent's office, and we wind up doing a search process of what the boundaries are. And oftentimes, boundaries are somewhat confused with the city boundaries as opposed to the school district boundaries.
Mhm.
And that sometimes requires getting information directly from the state education department and going back to the original boundary descriptions that are in the archives that they have at the state education department. And with that, we generally do a review of what those boundaries are. Then we sit down and figure out where the building is and figure out where the division is, where it is. And if there's a decision based upon, the decision is based upon whether the school district boundary intersects the property. And if it does intersect the property, then there's a question as to whether the parents could have a choice as to where they end up going to school. We've had, I can't remember off the top of my head, I wouldn't want to tell you that, but we had several that we've had around the region where we had to do the boundary dispute discussion and looking at that piece. And there's some places where there were boundary intersections that did allow parents. And generally what that happens when the parent purchases a property initially, it's not something you can go back and actually review and discuss, but it's generally you choose when you move into the property as to where your child's going to go. And that decision's made. We also look at tax records as well and bus routes as well. So.
And maybe I misspoke. The thing I think I was more interested in maybe is your experience around reorganization and mergers. Just thinking about if they're, if you have some, for example, say a district had some schools that were very crowded and other schools that were less crowded. Do you work with those districts to help think through how they might redistribute the students?
Yes, and that's an extensive process as well. And there's been some state aid initial offerings that the governor's offered to help with that process. But we work with the development of what the plan would look like, having those meetings with the different respective school boards, and then talking about how they would move forward with doing the process. So it's an extensive process.
Great,
But
thank you very
It does
much.
involve the community and the feedback from the community. So we're probably doing a lot of work with supporting the community through the process of hearing with stakeholder meetings before we move forward with that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. I actually have had the pleasure to get to know BOCES a lot more this past year. At my job, I had a lot of students who actually are participating, and I was invited last April to the audiovisual class, and I was interviewed for a final project, which was very, very cool. So I would love if we can take a field trip all together, fellow board members, to go visit, because I do want to see the electrical classroom. No worries. But thank you for that offer, because I think that's something that we would love to do. My question is piggybacks a little bit off of Vice President Brooks, and the past year or two, we've got a lot of feedback from the community about what it would look like to have and host our own like CTE programs here in district. And what would that be an opportunity for discussion with you guys, exploring what that would look like, especially if we built out our own CTE programs in district at one of our facilities?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on which model you're looking to achieve. If you want to create your own New Rochelle self-contained sort of CTE program, we certainly can advise you in terms of the process. It's quite complex. Former district that I was in started that process, and I'm not saying it would take this long for you, started that process about 10 years ago, and just now was able to put all the pieces in place to have those programs actually be New York State CTE certified. It's quite a cumbersome process. Part of it is that finding folks that are willing to come from industry, become a teacher. So it's finding those right people. Then you have to develop the program. It has to meet all the state ed requirements, including space, equipment, safety, all of that. So it's quite a lengthy process, but certainly if New Rochelle wanted to engage in that, we would advise and help in any way we could. The other model would be kind of a partnership where New Rochelle, if I understood your question correctly, New Rochelle might host CTE programs, but other districts could send students here. So it would be a Southern Westchester BOCES program housed in New Rochelle, and then other districts would be able to come here as well. So that's just a second model pathway. Also comes with complications. It's a very elaborate process, but sort of two different potential pathways.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you. That was very, very helpful.
I was going to add just one more thing as far as the magic behind BOCES is shared services. And so we have to at least, when you're looking at developing something on that lines, there has to be at least another district that's part of that discussion to be able to do that.
Thank you so much. Do any of my colleagues have any other questions? Seeing none, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you coming tonight. Yeah, I actually, before, because I do want to recognize our State Senator Natalia Fernandez is here, so thank you so much for joining us tonight. I didn't want to say it in the middle of the presentation. Yes. Yeah.
I know. Thank you so much. Well, all one night, like very.
I don't like it. So firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Harold Coles and his team for presenting to us. I think we had an opportunity to really be informed about some of the offerings with BOCES. I know many of us only envision BOCES to be for our students and not realizing how many of our adults it actually helps to educate as well. So I want to thank District Superintendent Coles for being here this evening. I would also be remiss if I didn't say I started my morning saying hello to Senator Fernandez, and now I'm seeing you again. How are you? Thank you for being here. Senator Fernandez has expressed an interest in being here at our board meeting so that she can learn how the district operates, and I'm so happy to see her here. We are next going to turn our attention to our Department of Business and Operations, that is led by our Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Carlos Leal. As we, believe it or not, begin our discussion, as it relates to our budget development for the 25-26 school year. So I'm going to ask Mr. Leal to please come on over and walk us through our budget development process for the 25-26 school year.
Good evening. If I may, I would just jump right in. And it's not a very long presentation, but in essence, all the conversations that we had last year, as well as this year, are aligned to our vision, our mission, with a true essence of focused on our equity vision as well. And that being said, we review our core beliefs, and then we build our budget against those. And of course, the budget itself is built around our strategic roadmap. So that being said, we started the conversation around the budget for 25-26 the day after the budget passed last year. And that was the commitment that we made to the community. And so we have taken that to heart, and we've been doing that work. But wanted to let you know that there was the things that were happening beyond just the thinking about the budget. And those were primarily 4 focus areas around the payroll operations, city finance leadership team, the finance committee, and then the budget development process itself. So just to give you an update of what has happened since last we met, the payroll process, we've been partnering with Human Resources, and so our payroll office is now receiving timesheets. Those previously were going to the HR office to streamline some of those processes. And we put additional controls into place regarding those timesheets. We have met with the city finance team, our leadership team in our office, as well as the leadership team of the finance team downstairs, have gone together to introduce each other because there has been changes in staffing on both floors in this particular building. And the topics discussed was a tax collection. When do we receive those in a timely fashion? Do we receive them in a timely fashion? How do we notify one another? And we began to discuss what the possibilities are to receiving those funds earlier so that we can maintain our cash flow. We established a quarterly meetings so that we can continue the conversation. And then, of course, our communication protocols. Who do we copy so that we're all in the know every time decisions are made or new information comes out so that we're all kept up to date? And then, of course, thank you to the board for starting a finance committee. We met last Friday, correct? And at that meeting, there was just basic introductions, the purpose of the meeting, and then establishing those meetings in a monthly, on a monthly calendar. And then again, establishing what are those protocols, working with board leadership and making sure that that information is then disseminated to all the board members. And then the last item again is the budget development process. Again, that we started the day after, and we started to identify what are our mandated dates by the state in terms of when we have to have things in place and things out to the community. And so we took that into consideration as we built out that calendar. And that's what I'm presenting to you guys this evening. So that being said, in 3 parts, the first brings us to today, bringing this forward to the Board of Education. And then we'll move into verification of our numbers, i.e. our staff. What is our current software, hardware, facilities request? What are all the things that we have in place currently? Starting to think about what is it that we need for the coming school year. What are our budgeted, unbudgeted requests, and beginning these conversations with our schools and our departments. Then that brings us to the opportunity to bring to the board conversations at 6 sessions. Last year we did these as budget work session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we'll continue in that same fashion. The difference here is that we've asked that our assistant superintendent colleagues in the other divisions join us in those conversations so we can dig a little bit deeper into each of those areas as part of the conversation with the community. And then the last piece really gets down to the responsibilities of having to get things to you on time, getting things voted and approved on time so that we can get this out to the voters for vote approval. And I forget, on March 20th, and I apologize, I jumped really quickly. On March 20th is the adoption of the budget itself by the Board of Ed. That is also the same day that Millie will be joining or sharing the podium and sharing the presentation she shared last year on where to vote, how to vote, etc. And then, of course, the 2 months that follow, again, when do we have to get our public notices out to the community, making sure that those get out on time. And then we get to the state vote, where on May 20th, which would be the vote for our community to hopefully pass the vote, or pass the budget. That was very quick, but I think I just thought it was just like a quick. We've done this before. It's pretty much following the same process. Some of the dates have changed. And again, in our effort to be more transparent, wanting to make sure that you understood that we were going to add our partners into the conversation so we can go deeper into those numbers.
And if I may add, Assistant Superintendent Leal, thank you very much for walking us down this path. Please know that it was a team's thought that our budget presentation, regardless of the outcome of the vote, was very successful last year in terms of getting information out to the public, in terms of making sure that we had opportunities to visit with interested communities who have requested for us to come out and present to them in the evening. And we wanted to ensure that we had a strong enough runway in order to replicate that this year, knowing that that is our vision as we move forward. So that is why you see a lot of the same scope and sequence that you might be familiar with from last year. And we did move the timeline up just a little bit, I think by about a week or two, to ensure that we were compliant again this year and in a better fashion with the final dates of when approval needed to occur prior to the board, prior to the public vote. So we wanted to ensure that we had a little bit more time just in case there were any snafus along the road.
Right, I believe last year we lost 2 meetings because of weather. which made things very tight. And if you'll notice on March, the beginning of April is when we need to get things out to the community. So we need to wrap this up at the end of March to be able to get what we need to legally provide to the community at the beginning of April.
Thank you for this. It's awesome to be so ahead, and this is really clear, and I really appreciate it. I think I mentioned this last year, but maybe now that we're so early in the process, we can work it in this year. I would love to think about, especially in light of us welcoming a student member to the board next year, how we might use this as a learning opportunity for our students to learn about budgeting, whether that's in a curricular context or or with our student council representatives or something. I would just love to have a more student participation and understanding of this whole process as a learning opportunity, because I'm always shocked at how little those of us who don't do this every year know about it. And I think if we're going to live to our educational obligations, it would be great to think about how we could creatively do that. Thanks.
Ms. Ross?
So yes, very excited to see like a calendar now. It's very exciting. But
Doesn't take a lot to get.
but two questions. Well, one is I really just it's more reiterate, but another one is a clarification. And I think that what should be the takeaway for anybody that's listening to this meeting is that to hear how the budget's being developed, that it's really those January, February, March meetings that our members of our community should really pay attention to and should come and listen and ask questions, because that's when we're really going to spend the majority of the time talking through all of the details. And because really by April, because once we vote on the 20th of March, that a lot of that is kind of set, right?
Correct.
And so I guess my question is, we kind of vote on it on the 30th, on the 20th, or whatever that date is. We then have the public hearing, which happens April 5th, 3rd. And so where in there, if any, right, when we hear about public feedback, is there any opportunity to kind of shape the budget or to hear kind of the public in these discussions? Is it really like February, January, March? January, February, March? Or by the time you come in April, is it set?
I'm going to go with, we really need to do that work earlier,
Mm-hmm.
because once we get the notice out, I mean, you can make adjustments, but I would not advise that be the way we approach the work, because if somebody misses that opportunity, then what we are presenting is not false, but it's not the true picture.
Mhm.
And so I would say the more we can engage our community in going back to December, January, and February, March, those are the time. That's the time for us to make those adjustments.
And then I guess on that is we do those budget presentations or the road shows in April. It would be great to somehow think about how do we really get people to engage in the public before then, so that it is kind of part of the process, right? Because at that point in April, it's really an education. Like this is kind of how we're planning to go about spending our dollars for next year, et cetera. But when we really want to start getting the input is really the March timeframe. So I guess it's kind of, the challenge to us is how, and not just to you, but I think for us as a board, is how do we encourage our sort of community members to really give any input, feedback, questions, concerns in the actual kind of making of the budget, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
And if I may, this will be a good time to remind our community that having our budget discussions, there's an opportunity for real-time feedback, and we will make that very publicly known via our webpage that will be designated for any comments from the community. Please know that those that web address will be monitored daily. And the person who's going to monitor it should raise his hand right now. But we do take feedback in real time, and that is the best mode of communication with us, so that we also have a record of what's being recommended.
Thank you.
I also think it would be important for all of us, like, yes, we are trustees. We are charged with the overseeing and supporting the budget of the district, but it's also important to remember that the budget is driven by the needs of the students, and we should be listening to the professionals on this. Like, we really need, and I know that's already happening, right? Teachers are having conversations with principals, are having conversations with assistant superintendents about the needs of the schools, the beds data, connecting it to even our special education plan, our strategic roadmap, and all of those things. And I think that the best thing that community members can do is spend time in our schools, read our, the superintendent's weekly updates about all the phenomenal things happening in our district, all of the hard work that our teachers are putting in to elevate learning and opportunities for our students. And I would hope that their participation and their engagement and just really understanding how our schools have improved and what we're doing to move the needle for kids in terms of those learning opportunities is really a testament to the budget. And the budget is a values-based budget based on the needs of the district. And so we want to be able to continue to support the innovation, the opportunities that make me so proud to be a parent and a board member here in the district. So there's always opportunities if people have feedback even from last year's budget or what they see in our schools every day. I would hope that we are listening, the Board of Ed is listening, and there's opportunities through email, through public comment here in our board meetings. There's so many different opportunities, but I do hope that folks know we are listening and we do take your feedback very seriously, particularly when it comes to planning ahead, even starting now.
And if I may add, please know, and I would like for everybody to remember this moment in time. Tomorrow's date is a very important date as it relates to our budget cycle. Tomorrow is known as BEDS Day, Basic Educational Data Systems Day. So that is the day that we take the count of all of the students who are registered in the district. And that is what we develop our budget on. Every school district in the state uses the same day. So tomorrow is that day. I mean, if your child is registered and you're not here tomorrow, we're still counting them. So please know that. That's not the way it works. But I want you to remember this date because you're going to hear us refer to this time and time again during our budget presentations later on this year.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Williams?
Okay. I just have a comment. I just really appreciate the calendar with the dates. So the community, the board, everyone understands what's happening when and why. So I appreciate the dates. Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else, thank you guys so much. There we go. Great. Next up on the agenda is liaison reports. Do any of my colleagues have any liaison reports? Oh, Ms. Lewis?
Very, very quick one. Went down to Webster for the Hispanic Heritage Celebration. Long line for the food truck. Oh, sorry. Long line for the food truck. A big turnout. Tons of families, and it was a great day, good weather, and so everyone seemed to really be enjoying themselves. So just a huge shout out to Webster for hosting, and to all the families and parents and children that came out to enjoy the day and just celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Ms. Ross?
Not so much a liaison report, but just two events that I had a chance to visit this past weekend. One was New Rochelle Homecoming, high school homecoming. It was great just to see all families out, as well as the Albert Leonard movie night. It was such a lovely evening to spend watching movies.
In the month of September. And moving forward, we plan to review our policies. And it's the intent of the City School District of New Rochelle Board of Education to develop policies and put them into writing so that they may serve as goals and guidelines for successful, efficient functioning of the district and schools, and to also make sure that we're supporting our strategic roadmap. And we'll be sharing information with you on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Ross?
We also had our first finance committee meeting this past, it was a couple weeks ago now. Or maybe it was last Friday, perhaps. Yeah. And it was a great meeting. It was our first meeting. So it was just kind of setting the boundaries of kind of what we'll be talking about and spending a bit more time with our finance head of our assistant soup. And so look forward to sharing our regular updates on a monthly basis with the rest of the team as well.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. I'm also the liaison to the Protect Committee and the Rescue Committee. I do not have my notes with me, but I will say for the Protect Committee that phase 1 of the security vestibules has started. So some schools are already being affected. New Rochelle High School, Jefferson, Albert Leonard, I believe Davis as well. So you've noticed that the main entrances have shifted in order for that work to start. Seeing no more liaison reports, we're going to move into public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of the meeting. The Board of Education adopted Policy 1230 in April 2022 to ensure all members of the public have the opportunity to speak at both of our board meetings each month. We believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please know that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, understand the board will not respond to your concerns and questions tonight. We take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel and students. Please know, however, that we take personal concerns very seriously. On these matters, we would actually go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. Tonight, we've set aside 45 minutes for public comment, where each speaker who has signed up before 3:30 today has 3 minutes to speak. If a person requests to speak after 3:30, speakers may sign up in person at the meeting with the clerk and will be afforded the opportunity to speak during the public comment period if time permits. Our first speaker of the night is Mr. Malfitano.
Okay, thank you. Well, look, a couple of things. I looked on Zoom at the meeting. I missed some of it. Superintendent was giving some information about Hispanic Heritage Month. October is Italian Heritage Month. Maybe you mentioned that before I tuned in, and maybe what's being done to honor the memory of Christopher Columbus. That's why October is Italian Heritage Month, because of his great voyage and his visionary thinking. So maybe I missed that. We also have an election coming up in November. I saw my state senator here earlier. It's too bad she's not here now. I had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Fernandez, Mr. Otis, and many others personally for many years. And I'm very disappointed in their leadership, as well as this board, in not respecting me as a parent. As a matter of fact, disrespecting me. There is an intentionality in the Democratic policies put forward by the state of New York, which unfortunately it seems Ms. Harris also supports as a presidential candidate, to leave me out of the loop when it comes to my child's very important issues of his life. As I read to you before, state guidance, if my child is going through some issues of gender identity, you will actually let your teachers lie to me. That's what the guidance says. They will use my son's name to me on the phone, but if my son wants to be called Kim instead of something else, you will tell the teachers that's okay. That's the Democratic Party. They don't trust parents. The red flag law, which I pointed out to you many times as an attorney and elsewhere, this is a very violative law of my parental rights. Nowhere in that law does it say, if my child is an imminent threat to himself or others, do you call me? I actually had Senator Meyer tell, the parent might hide the guns. Once again, the Democratic Party does not trust parents, and this school board goes along with it. What do you think? All parents in New York State are bad parents? And so we must have the power of this state make a decision and have police come to my house in the middle of the night and serve my son with an order of protection? Why isn't there something in the law that says a parent gets a phone call? I'm asking you to look into that. Will you do it? Try to do it. That's why I have to vote against every Democrat on the ballot, because I've spoken to them in a congenial way. I've pointed out the laws, pointed out how parents are disrespected, and they show no interest. Ms. Harris shows no interest. This is dangerous times in New York to be a parent of a child in school. I don't even know if you guys are calling my child the name I've given him.
Thank you, Ms. Malfitano. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment tonight? Great. Ms. Breslin?
Good evening, Mary Claire Breslin, President of New Rochelle Fuse. I would like to publicly thank Dr. Reynolds and President Iannuzzi for coming to the NYSIT Disconnected Conference last Friday. It should be noted that we were one of very few districts that were represented by the union, central administration, and the school board. I'm very proud of the partnership, and I appreciate your time because I know you have full dance cards. I hope that while we're waiting for Governor Hochul to make a decision, we would start talking about a cell phone policy for this district. Cell phones, social media have hijacked our lives, and it's impacting students in a negative way. So I hope that we can have conversations, and the ELA teacher in me would like to recommend that all of you read, if you haven't already, The Anxious Generation. It's very powerful. So contact me if you want to have a book club. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Breslin. Dr. McCutcheon?
That'd be better. It's fine.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Good evening. One of the things that came up in the last year's budget season was the increase in I think the tax cap. I never really understand the budget, although Mr. Leal does a commendable job. But I do want to commend Mr. Leal and his team for doing a really good job in communicating to the community why there was an increase that was coming, and it had to do with the sunsetting of the COVID funds. And so as we look ahead to the current budget planning year, I think it's important for us to engage in those conversations around how we can maximize the district resources. And in particular, I'm thinking about the human resources, and I'm thinking about the high school specifically. I also want to, and as a part of that, I just want to highlight and commend Assistant Superintendent Dr. Joyner and the counseling team at the high school for really rethinking the approach to counseling and looping with students, right? And so that's a really great example of how we have radically shifted the way that things are done at the high school to be more in the service of the students themselves. And so one of the things that I frequently talk about is the importance of kids being known and feeling cared for. There are numerous adults at the high school. Many of them, I think, are not as utilized as they might be. We have a lot of safety, security officers at the schools, at the high school in particular, and I would suggest that the more we focus on building relationships with students, the less we have to think about policing them and creating a sense that they need to be checked at every point. If we have more of those adults transition from safety and security into classrooms as teaching assistants, as paraprofessionals, as other ways of connecting with students, I think students will feel seen, they will feel cared for, they will feel like they are accountable to themselves and to the people that are looking out for them. And so I would encourage us as we're thinking about the budget and reimagining how we're aligning or continue to align our budget with our values, I would encourage us to really take a close look at how we are thinking about the adults and maximizing what they bring to our communities, especially because so many of those folks are from the community and know the kids. And so let's shift those relationships so that they're less adversarial and more in the service of promoting care. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to sign up for public comment? Seeing none, we're going to move into new business consent agenda personnel resolutions. All right, colleagues, can I get a motion and second to approve consent agenda for personnel resolutions number 25-149, 1 through 22, number 25-150, 1 through 12, number 25-151, 1 through 5, number 25-152, and number 25-153, 1 through 16, according to the recommended action for each item.
So moved, Brooks.
Second, Lewis.
All in
Second,
favor?
Williams.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Colleagues, the next group, I'm going to pull to vote separately 10.06, number 25-158. So I'm going to call consent for all the other items. I'm going to take out 10.06, number 25-158. I'm going to take that separately. So can I get a motion and second to approve consent agenda for general resolutions number 25-154 through number 25-157 and number 25-159 through number 25-170 according to the recommended action for each item? Nope. I'm sorry, number 25 through 171 according to the recommended action for each item.
So moved, Ross.
Second, Lewis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So now I'm going to take 10.06 separately. So colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to approve resolution number 25-158, approving contractual agreements for the 2024-2025 school year?
Second, Lewis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Opposed.
Motion carries. So colleagues, our next meeting is going to be committee of the whole session, Tuesday, October 22nd, 6 o'clock. It's going to be at the Remington Boys and Girls Club. We're going to have our meeting in the Lincoln Attendance Zone. Tonight, we are going to adjourn in memory of Judith Ferrara, a retired teacher at New Rochelle High School who passed away on August 13th, 2024, and Margaret Kumerer, a retired second grade teacher at Jefferson who passed away on September 22nd, 2024. Colleagues, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Williams.
Second, Lewis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.